You got your little flaggy things here. Again, fantastic. Really appreciated that. It was very nice to see. And then there's some 3s in there too. This, I'm just gonna throw that. This is your artillery die. That's not really here. There's nothing crazy where I might be in a battle where the player wants to lose. That's never an option. I love rolling dice. So anytime I can roll that, that's way more exciting. In fact, like I want to know right now what I got. That's a great roll. Look at that. 2 2s, a 4, a 3, a max value 3, and only 1 blank on that. Fantastic roll. See, that would have been amazing. Why couldn't I roll that in real life? Hey guys, how's it going? Today I will be reviewing Titans for you. This is live on Kickstarter right now, so if you're interested in this at all, link in the description below. Otherwise, let's get into it. Alright guys, so first things first, this is a prototype. This is not the final version of the game. This has a neoprene mat that's an add-on in the Kickstarter, so just FYI there. I believe this is probably the mat you will get, in which case it's not going to be stitched. I might comment on that later, but just know that I think this is a little bit larger. I think it's like 20% larger. Obviously, the cards are probably not final card quality, especially with like linen finishes, stuff like that. Miniatures are just like 3D prints, and they're all fragile and stuff. The cubes are, I mean, it's just FYI. Don't go in here thinking like, oh my gosh, that looks terrible, or, you know, oh wow, that, you know, that looks perfect, because it's just going to improve from what you see here. Okay. All right. Moving on from that, I want to start real quick with setup. Normally I try to go in the progress of how you experience a game. So you first experience it by unboxing it. I can't comment on that because it's a preview copy. Your next is the rulebook. I can comment on that a little bit, but again, it's not finalized either. So hopefully any feedback I have, you know, can be taken into there, and then, you know, everybody wins and gets a better version of it. And then it's set up. And that's really what I want to talk about here. So to set it up, it's actually really quick and simple, and I love that. You can get this game down on the table real quick, and that's awesome. What you do is you just take your, and again, this is printed out. Again, you know, I get it. It's not normal here. You'll just kind of pick a scenario. So there's 2-player game setups. There's, you know, 3-player game setups. Let me just go to some of those. No, maybe one of these. You see how prepared I was? No. So there's like a 3-player setup here, and you'll see there are less, there's more areas that are open each time. And then eventually you get to the 4-player setup where there's all 4. So what you do here is all you do is you follow what it is. So you place these down to kind of shrink the map size. This has a big kind of small world field in that you just don't quite have enough room to expand how you want. And so no matter what happens, you're going to have to get into conflict, which is kind of nice. And so the world kind of shrinks depending on what needs to happen. And then you'll take your color and you'll place your, you know, your capital. More on that later. And then 3 of your units like the map shows. Okay. And then we'll do the same for the other one. You'll get their 3. Swap hands and reach in front of the camera. Okay, so they're all set up. You're all set up. You got your player board. You got your nation cards. You got your little flaggy things here, and you got the rest of your people. Next step you do is you take your Titan, you take a cavalry, you take an artillery person, and you put them wherever you want that you own. So you can put all 3 into one. You can POW that stuff in. You can divvy it out, so maybe it's all separated. Maybe you group it this way. Doesn't matter. You can put it in there. So that's what you do. So you do the same here. You know, you put that one in. You'd put, you know, maybe these 2 guys there. Call it good. All right. So now you're set up. You're ready to go. So I really, really like that. That's just like that. It's quick. You roll out the mat or fold out the game board. You pick your stuff. You put it on there. We're now playing the game. That's awesome. Now, one thing, and I don't know if you noticed this or not, just glancing through this, probably not because I didn't show you everything, but notice that this is red and yellow. I know this is really bright here. That's fine. and I did red and blue. I did that because this was actually our first match. I picked the red people, more on why you would pick one versus the other later, and my wife picked the blue people here, and then we went to set it up. None of these have that. So this is red versus yellow, red versus green, blue versus yellow, green versus yellow, blue versus green, making a mess over here throwing these papers, blue versus yellow versus green. Oh, come on. All right, we got red, blue, yellow, green. Only when you're using all four do you finally get red and blue in the same match here. Now, again, this might not be all the scenarios. I cannot attest to that. Maybe they'll add more. But the point stands here that while I appreciate the balance, and I appreciate that it ensures that each game is fairly well balanced and tested well with their powers, where they're laid out on the map, and so on, that's cool. That's great. But this is very limiting. So if your favorite group is the red guys, and that's all you want to play, and your main gaming partner loves the blue and so they want to play, even if they add another one, they'll just have one map that you'll play over and over again, that scenario. Now, it's not that it's a terrible way to do it. There's a lot of area control games where you have your standard starting area. That's where you start at, right? Red always starts here. Blue always starts, not over there. They start up there or whatever. But the point is that that's okay, but it is so limiting, and it's not something I really liked. It was kind of a bummer to pick this before picking this and find out that we couldn't do that. My wife had to give up her blue, which was, again, kind of a bummer. So I didn't like that. I would like to see either some method where you could just, maybe just kind of decide on what to place. I don't know. It's kind of difficult when you have to shrink the map unless you make different sized maps. Like maybe the opposite side of this is a 2-player one and it just has, you can pick any two and put them there and that works. That would be a cool kind of alternative thing. A great stretch goal, I would think, is something like that, so that you're guaranteed to always just pick your army, get it to the table, and go, because the setup's quick and easy, unless you try to set up something impossible, like red versus blue. All right, now I know I kind of dogged on that part of the setup process and just the kind of limiting factor from that. But I do want to give a shout out to this. So this is in prototype form, right? So this is not finalized, and yet they already have this, which was great. They have each individual group, each nation, and an explanation on what these symbols mean exactly, which is highly appreciative, especially as you're learning. They have each of their nation cards spelled out exactly when you can use it and what it does. And that is for each and every single one. Again, fantastic. Really appreciated that. It was very nice to see. Now, on this note, the symbols can... I got used to them within a turn or so. That wasn't too bad. We didn't really have to look up a whole bunch. But there are some that just kind of... especially with the nation cards, because they're kind of unique. You just kind of have to get used to them. Like, while we were playing, I still kind of had to figure out exactly what this meant. Like, I know that's a discard, and that's maybe your hand, or maybe it means 3, and that's, so I'm guessing you add 1 and then discard down to your hand limit or something. Though maybe you always discard 1 out of your hand after gaining 1. I had to look that up. I don't know which one that is. This symbol, I actually would have to look this up right now. I don't know what that is. It's pretty much just used here. Same with like something like this. When you get the kind of specific ones, this is really the only time you see this. And so red is your opponent. That means any miniature. I'm assuming that means I believe if I remember correctly, they have to take it out of the area. And this means they need at least 2 or more people in the area. If I'm not mistaken, again, even if I play this after reading it, I'd need to read that again to make sure. So some of that can be kind of difficult, but in the most part, I realize what these symbols are. Those are the people I need to have in my army. That's the opponent's army. This means, attack and defense. So just in a battle, that means after a battle with the arrow that way. That means before a battle right there. Then there's some that are like just attacking, or just defending. And then some are like after a victorious battle. So I can get those pretty quick. I got used to these, I don't even know what I'm doing with these cards, quite quickly. With all the different symbols, I need 2 cavalry, they get +1 strength. This one I get to discard a support card to make one of my die values its maximum, and that my size limit is 6. Pretty straightforward. And at first I had actually had a note on this review saying I would have preferred keywords, but in actuality I think it goes pretty quick, except for those obscure ones. Those obscure ones are kind of rough. And I think there is room perhaps that you could put in at least some hints or something like that. It's whatever. Maybe even if on the back of the board here there was like a quick synopsis of those difficult ones, perhaps the unique ones that you only see there. Speaking of the board here, I really like how they give you the die values here, so you can just kind of judge real quick what the die values are, what the possibilities are. I like the uniqueness here. So like I said, they can have 6 support cards in their hand. More on how that works later. They can make their die max with the Titans, and they get +2 cavalry. But if you take the blue here, again, they're going to work differently. So if they have 2 or more, they actually get a cavalry die instead. They can use any support card once that they can't even match, but they only have a limit of 4. Now, some of these are a little bit, they feel more unique than others. So like this one feels more unique. This is the Russian one, I believe. Yeah. And for each single infantry they get another infantry die, but only if they're single. So each one counts as 2. So it's pointless to have 2 into 1. Either have 1 or 3, which means they tend to spread out very thin with that. Which again makes them feel kind of unique, but they only have a limit of 4 compared to like perhaps my 6. So they all are unique, and that's kind of nice. You get these guys, and they're a bit more defensive just because they can flip the roles on how you attack, plus have a good size limit. None of them are doing anything crazy or different or game breaking or anything like that. So you're still kind of doing the same things. None of them have custom rules per se, just slight modifiers between that, but it's enough to give them a kind of unique feel, which I appreciate. Now, another thing that I really appreciated are these secret objective cards. You get to build them up as you go through, and kind of like Blood Rage, what you do is you kind of have to just complete it, and then you get victory points for it. This says you have to win a battle as a defender with a smaller army than the opponent, so, that's kind of cool. Or maybe you need to initiate 2 battles, or control 2 armies with at least 4 units for your whole turn. Or sometimes you have to control regions. Now, this was actually kind of interesting because I had to kind of figure out how this, they didn't tell you how to read this in the rule book, but this is how many players are playing and then the value you need for it. So in only a 2-player game, you need to control 7. In a 3-player game, only 6. In a 4-player, only 6. So that's kind of the difference there. But, I appreciated having to control different regions, and sometimes you have to go to the center. Sometimes you have to go to their capitals. There's a various amount of things you need to do. A lot of them are kind of derivative in that, like, this whole control regions. There's several that are kind of like that. But for the most part, these are really nice and fun and kind of, just an interesting, see, here's another control regions, another control regions, another control regions. So not super heavy in variety. But fun enough to do that nobody quite knows why you're spreading out. Are you spreading out because you're trying to expand? Are you spreading out because you need multiple regions? Are you spreading out because you're trying to get to their capital because that's what you need? You don't know, and so for the most part, you just try to maybe guess based off their playstyle or something like that. Okay, now we will get to the combat here shortly. What I want to talk about here is the orders that you pick. So I'm going to put a picture up here, and this is just going to show kind of what I'm talking about here. So it's going to be overlaid here, just so it's a really nice camera angle for you guys. But one of my issues, and the reason I didn't like Rising Sun, is because I didn't feel like I was in too much control over what I could possibly do. I can make a plan, but ultimately it was random in what 3 mandates I got, and I had to pick from those 3 mandates. With this, not only do you have more than 3, at least once each turn as part of the round, but you can also see what's coming up the next time too. So the second row here is going to shift down when this row is done, and then another 5 are going to go. And so you're going to go through 3 rows of this in a round. And so you're going to go through all the options. With 3 of them you won't get because they get dropped down. So there's not just 1 card left. So everybody has an option to pick from. But it adds a whole lot. First of all, most of them allow you to do multiple things, so there's multiple combinations. There's only a few that allow you to do just one thing. And again, at the end of the day, you get to pick from that, and you're going to have enough chances in your turn. You have more turns than a game like Rising Sun or even Blood Rage, to where you can really kind of help define what it is you're trying to do. So if you're trying to move an army to the northwest, you can move your army to the northwest. If you're wanting to split up an army, you can do that. Now, one of the other things I wanted to talk about is movement. So movement in these games are key, and it's one of the issues I don't like with some of the area control games that this seems to be influenced by, like Rising Sun, is it can be hard to move where and when you want to. With Rising Sun, it had the timed battles that were an issue, so you had to get there at a certain amount of time. Plus, with the mandates, you might not be able to move. Maybe they're on the bottom of the tile deck, in which case you're kind of screwed. So there's stuff like that. Whereas with this, you can get a card like this. You can get these support cards. And what this does is, if you're in a battle and you're in a battle against, in this case, their army, the enemy army has a cavalry unit, you can move one of your enemies into there. I can't count how many times I used those to be able to move a unit in. So if they were in two separate units, and so then I attack, and then I bring that guy in, and now they're all together and moved over there. You're able to combine groups and move strategically just by planning that out. Really, really nice. I'm really glad those were there. Now, I will say between these, you have some that allow you to move, some that allow you to add die, some that allow you to add strength, and I want to say that might be it, which is kind of my point. Let's see. So I'm looking at the upper left here, and yes, that is it. So of that, those are really your options there. Now, what changes? What changes is what you need to do here. But other than kind of controlling who needs what, those are your three options. You're either adding a die, moving a person, adding strength. It's great and all, but because there's only three options, very often in that four, you'll have four of these. Or even four of these every now and then, or three of these and one of those, or something like that. And I guess more variety would be nice. And I think that's a common theme here that I've talked about. These, nations are interesting, but they don't play fundamentally different from one another. They're still very much the same kind of structure and same kind of thing, with a few little tweaks here and there that you might be able to use every now and then. These are all unique, but again, they're doing the same kinds of things for the most part, except for a few oddball ones, which then throw you for a loop based off their symbol. For instance, they all, that I could tell, have this card, or at least one of these, possibly more. So they all allow you to add a Titan die typically too. So just the variety between doing that, even some of the actions sometimes, there's no option here to do something kind of fancy, like look at your player's cards or something like that, or search through the support for a specific support token. See, I can just think of stuff on the bat, literally just thought of that I think would be interesting additions to these options, whether it's here in the nation cards, in the support cards themselves, in the orders, that would just spice up the gameplay a little bit and add a few other random things. Comparing to something like Blood Rage or something like that with the Loki strategy, or, Rising Sun with the hired Ronin and all that kind of fanciness there, that's not really here. There's nothing crazy where I might be in a battle where the player wants to lose. That's never an option. Everybody wants to win. It's very straightforward. You go there, you battle, you want that area, and ideally you want to, overkill them. But that's really it. There's nothing crazy or wonky going on. There's no, I want to go over to Valhalla and then come back, or there's no monster hiring or anything like that. So the variety here is a little bit less, but the strategy is still really good. Like I said, it's still balanced and it's still well laid out, and there's still some unique things. So let's get into the unique things. All right, one of the things I really, really like here is that the miniatures you have, instead of having a set value, so if you think, again, like Blood Rage or something like that, where anytime you have miniatures on the board, typically they mean something, they give you something. And these do, but it's not a direct value. Instead, they're tied to die. So this is your Titan die, and it can go from 2 to 4. Minimum is 2, max is 4, and then there's some 3s in there too. I'm just going to throw that. This is your artillery die. And this, again, minimum is 1. Most of them are 2. There is a few 3s on there too. Then you have your infantry die, which has blanks in it, and your cavalry die, which is either 1 or 2, 50-50. And you can actually add those. Now, there is a limit to your pool, but if I have these two, I'd be rolling this. If I have cards or a special ability, I might be able to add a red, or I might be able to add another Titan die, or I might be able to bring somebody in to add their value there. So it allows you to give you something specific, they stand for something, but add variability into it as well. And so this adds another variety piece on top of the card play that you can use, just like in like Rising Sun or something like that. So you get like these cards here, and again, if you can play them, you're either adding if you have 1 card, you're adding 1 strength. If you're able to play 2 of them, you're adding 3. If you're able to play 3 of them, you're adding 5. So you can do that. You can bring in another person. You can add dice. So between the cards and the dice, I really like that. It adds what I like about having miniatures on a map where they have value and they have purpose, and there's a reason why it's minis and not, just something more abstract like a gemstone or something like that. These miniatures are significant. But it still adds a rolling dice, which I always miss anytime we get in these area control games where they don't really have dice. They're more fixed in value, which is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but I love rolling dice. So anytime I can roll that, that's way more exciting. In fact, like I want to know right now what I got. That's a great roll. Look at that. 2 2s, a 4, a 3, a max value 3, and only 1 blank on that. Fantastic roll. See, that would have been amazing. Why couldn't I roll that in real life? In a real game, that would have been awesome. When I was playing, that was not the case. All right. As you can see, though, I love that kind of swinginess with dice. It's really good. But I can kind of make up for that with the card play. Additionally, another cool thing, again, with the combat. Wait, before I go on that, talking about the minis here, they're really well designed. Like, they're just cool looking. I talked about it in my unboxing a little bit. I think some detail may need to be popped out. Again, these are prototypes. There's plenty of time to kind of figure out how to look in production plastic and sculpt it and change things. But some of the fine detail that they like to do, like embroidery work on the gloves and stuff, I think need to be exaggerated. But design-wise, they're really cool. Fire wings, why not? Even smart designs, like having the sword kind of attached to the hat here, so it's a little bit more strong. Again, I think it's pretty smart. And I believe the horses are correct in how they're walking, which again isn't always done, so that's cool. So I really like the miniatures here. This ice dude with like the rock and the ice part coming out, again, awesome, love it, very neat. So miniatures are cool and they mean something. Now, additionally, if you are to attack, right? So let's say this poor sod is being attacked and I'm attacking him. In the normal thing, the defender has to play all of his cards first and then the attacker does. So what that means, and you'll track your kind of attack here. So this is 0 through 9, and then you can add a 10. So this would be 11, 12, right? So this is 12, 13, 14, 15, like that, 25, 26, 23, whatever. So that's how you're doing that. But the defender plays all of their strength as much as they can or as much as they want to. And then afterwards, they're going to have some number, let's say 11. They have 11 strength from one of those. They must have had amazing cards. That's probably not possible. But that means as the attacker now, I know exactly what I need to beat. I need to beat 11. As long as I beat 11, I win. And so I don't have to play more than I need to, right? The defender might overplay. The defender might get to 11 and I could only get to 7. Now, if he had known that, he may have not had to play other cards. So that kind of dynamic of a fixed value you're going for, if you're the attacker, if you're the aggressor, is really cool. Now, they do have, if I can find one real quick. They do have, my goodness, where are they? These like fortifications where you flip the roll. The attacker would have to roll first. Or do his strengths first. Super helpful. Again, it's very helpful to know. In fact, if you know you can't beat their score, then you're just not going to play any cards. You're going to keep your support cards. That's helpful. Unless, and this is the other one, again, picture time here. This is really unique too. So this is essentially the battle diagram, and what it shows is the strength or that you overkilled them in. So if you kill them in 0 to 2, They're going to lose no people. They're going to reroute their units to a safe place, and they're going to draw 1 support card for losing, so they still get some back, and you're going to get 1 victory point. However, if you killed them 5+, you're killing 2 of their units off the board completely. They reroute anybody else. Now they get 3 support. That means they lost bad, but you get 4 victory points. Additionally, if you killed their Titan, you get extra. If you took over them when you were at a disadvantage, when they had the fortification, you get an extra 1. Again, very, very cool idea. So you might be wanting to pump it up, or you might even if you know you're going to lose, you don't want them to win by a lot because you don't want to lose your units and you don't want them to get more victory points. So you're playing all of that together, which again is just really, really nice. I think it adds a lot of kind of nuance to this game where you know the variability of here and you know the exact values there. You might know who you're fighting against, you know, or the strength that they have. You might know based off of what they've been picking publicly, if they've been picking those open cards, what support cards they have. All their nation cards that they have are face up, so you know their nation cards. You can see the cards that are coming up and that are available and what their units are, what they might pick or what they might pick next. You have all of this at play at the same time, which adds a lot of strategy. Now, one of the problems with all of that strategy is that, first of all, especially in the later game, you tend to sit there and you're looking because you have not only 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, it depends on how many 3, 2, or 5, 4 players are playing, but up to 5 choices for your orders, plus looking at what's coming up next. Again, plus everybody's nation cards and your secret objective cards and all of that kind of stuff. And it ends up where your turn takes a while typically. It doesn't typically go quick, especially if the person before you took the card you were about to pick. Then you have to rethink your entire strategy often enough. With that, because you go through each card, at least each card, so 3 rounds of turns, and then, or 3 rounds, and of that, 3 turns in each round, the game takes a smidge longer than I'd like. Again, coming from something like Blood Rage or Rising Sun, those are typically fairly snappy games. Especially Blood Rage, you get the 3 acts and you're done. That game could be played in an hour. This tends to not be. Maybe in a 2-player game, it depends on how well versed you are in your nation and what you're doing and all the different orders and symbols and stuff. But it can take a while. It's not that it's a super long game, but compared to the setup, compared to, against some of its inspirations, it's definitely on the longer side. And because you go through each order, all 3 rounds, these don't change. There are no new orders showing up. It's the same orders you saw last time. Again, there are only 3 types of support cards really. So you're just seeing those 3 types of support cards over and over again. In fact, by round 3, you're definitely shuffling through that support deck. So you're even getting your discards and stuff there. And so it's strategic, but kind of samey at the same time. Now, I still really enjoyed it, and I would not mind playing this again. It's just something that I think a little bit shorter, I think would have been the sweet spot for me. I think if it had been a little bit shorter, like maybe a round shorter, maybe if it only went the first and second round, or maybe even skip to the second round, because the first round, typically you're expanding, you don't even necessarily fight in the first round. I think I would have not had an issue with the variety nearly as much. But after seeing it kind of over and over again, especially with multiple playthroughs, you get kind of that samey feeling. Still very strategic, still very nuanced, still very tight gameplay-wise and balance-wise. Just lacking a little bit in the variety for what I like. Now, I've shown you some of the different parts of the board, and I just want to show you these other parts of the board because I think it's cool that it's on the board itself. So right here, you have the turn order. You're going to pick your order in A. And B, you're going to battle if you did a battle. And C, you're going to pick a support card. And then in D, you're going to make sure you're at your hand limit. And if your Titan was destroyed, you bring him back. That's it. That's your turn. It's right there. You can't forget it. Same with up here near the round token here. So after a round, you see how many places you own and get a victory point for that. Then the first player goes to the left, the round goes to the right. Then you get to pick either you get 2 support cards or you look at the top 2 secret objective cards and take one. And then your second option, you can either pick a nation card or discard a support card to put any one unit in an area you control. And then you recycle pretty much everything that needs to be recycled. Having all of this kind of information on the board itself is just nifty. I really appreciate it. It means you're looking at the rulebook a lot less often. And part of not having a lot of wild, crazy things is there's not a lot of weird scenarios here. Once you get it all down, you've got it. You know everything that's possible. There's no weird edge cases. There's no, this card does something crazy, but it messes with the timing or anything like that. None of that's the case. It's very straightforward. And in fact, by our second playthrough, we didn't look at the rulebook at all. Every now and then we'd reference if we, again, if we saw some weird symbol somewhere. This is our artillery symbol, by the way. FYI, you're pretty much only going to see them here on your nation cards, and only like 2 of them in there. But besides looking at that, we were golden. And because I had a lookup for that, that was easy too. So really, really enjoyed that as well. Okay, so if I was going to summarize this, one thing I would mention, I guess, before I summarize it, is that one of my favorite things about Blood Rage, by the way, is one of my favorite games. And one of them that I love a lot, and one of them that I'm not seeing in Ankh, which you'll probably hear more about me complain as time goes on, because Ankh has player elimination. This does not have so it doesn't mention player elimination. I imagine there is a possibility in a very weird edge case where you could lose all of your units and have no land, but that's fairly unlikely. And like somebody's like on your capital too, so you can't deploy there. But in the most part, you're in this for the long haul. However, there is no real catch-up mechanic here. So in Blood Rage, you can go from almost last place. You can botch your first 2 acts. And if you have a solid rock star third act, if you get all the objectives and hold all the land and win all the battles and do your Loki strategy or whatever it is you're doing, if you ace that, you can pull up all the way to first, maybe second, something like that. Either way, there's always that feeling that you have a chance of winning. You're not lost. It's not like that old style game of Risk where you got behind at the beginning and there was just no coming back. Now here, I think smart play can bring you back from edging. Like if you're not doing so well, you might be able to make a good push here and pick your battles there. But for the most part, there's no ingrained mechanics here. So in Blood Rage, your Act 3 stuff is worth more. So if you do really good there, you can make up for past ones that didn't do good. Or if you had 2 really good ones there, that makes up for maybe a not so good one in the third. Here again, it's all the same. There are no added victory points. You're getting them the same amount as before. Nothing really changes in that regard. So there's no catch-up mechanic, which is something that I always really enjoy. Now, to summarize though, now that I've said all of my points, this is a multi-layered, strategic, tightly balanced game. And so if you're more into that kind of stuff, while still having some unique gameplay elements, and you have the dice, you have the drafting, you have the card play with the miniatures, you have the area matters. If you have all of that combined together, it makes a really enjoyable game. This is a fun game to play. I love puzzles, and so this feels like a puzzle to me. And like I said, it can add some time, but when you're on your turn and you're looking at that, so you're looking at all your options here, and you're trying to decide like, well, I could play this card here and move him there, and then add a unit here, and then attack with them. And then if I did that, with my attack, they would have to go first only against that. And then on mine, I'm going to bring in my cavalry because I know that they took that support card that they can use as cavalry, but they're going to have to go before me because they're the defender. And so then if I do that and I play these cards here, then I can move all 3 of my guys in there. And then that's really good because then I'm one step closer to my secret objective where I need to be in the center of the map. And if I kill him strong enough, he gets to go off the board and he's weaker there, which is good because he's in first place point wise. And really what I'm actually trying to do is actually get over to his capital so I can ransack his capital and get 3 points. And all of that kind of stuff, what I just said, is a legitimate mindset of just one path you could take. And then you pick another card. Okay, what could I do if I moved all 4? Maybe I do that and I just move everybody in there all at once. Or maybe I need to add more people because I need more support there because there's a wall of people coming here and he could pick that 4. Or maybe I don't want him to pick that 4, so I take that away so he can't have that. So I know I'm safe from a big battle like that. It's great. If that's your style of game, if that's what you want to think about, is that kind of nuanced step by step, by 4, 3, 5 steps ahead, trying to figure out what your opponent's going to do or what you're trying to do, and trying to make sure that you have all your areas covered, so you don't have a weak defensive line against the third player that could come out from behind you. Not that happened to me. It's really, really good like that. Yes, it could have more variety. Yes, it can maybe be a smidge shorter. Yes, it could maybe have some sort of catch-up mechanic, so if you were behind, you didn't get kind of downtrodden. There was a game where that kind of happened, where somebody obviously they didn't have good luck with their battles, they weren't able to expand like they were, and it was just kind of, it kind of sucked for that player. But the core experience, and again, if this is your style of game, this is a good one to get. It's definitely unique. I like it more than Rising Sun, but again, I think I said that at the beginning. I could have this right next to Blood Rage and play one or the other. I still love Blood Rage, and I love it way more than this. I love it more than most games, so don't take that as a bad thing. But this is different enough and a good enough game to where I'd be fine recommending this on your game shelf. Now, as always, I know you guys want a rating. Everybody wants a rating. What's the rating? Is it 2 out of 10? Is it 13 out of 100? Is it 25 out of 3,000? I know you guys are just itching. You're just wondering, like, how much is it? And it is definitely, without a doubt, a solid 37 ums a minute. If you've done a public speech, you know how high that is. 37 ums a minute. That's like rock star level. That's either really good or really bad, depending on if you're going for a world record or not. I don't know. I just know that's definitely what it is. All right, guys. That's my review. That's what I got. I hope you enjoyed this one. Stay tuned for kind of a little outro here where I'll tell you more about a big thing coming up. Alright guys, that was it for the review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to answer maybe some of your questions if you were wondering if this might be a game for you or not. If it is, again, link in the description below. Feel free to check it out. It's, I think, well worth your time. Even if you think you just might be interested, go ahead and look at some of the stuff they've unlocked and just kind of their campaign and how they're pitching it, and see for yourself if it's something that you want. I know there's some add-ons that add some other like Titan abilities and stuff like that, so definitely worth checking out. Again, link in the description below. That Kickstarter is currently live, so you're going to want to do it probably sooner rather than later. Alright, I mentioned that there's a big thing coming up, and so I wanted to kind of just help announce that. So first of all, link in the description below. I made a Facebook group. This is an open group. Feel free to join it and discuss miniatures and board games. I was informed that it's a little bit hard to maybe only type in the comments here, or you can sort of talk to a page on Facebook, but this is just an open community. You guys are free to share, and I want this to feature more content creators than any other group. What I mean by that is, as a content creator myself, content creator, that's a weird term, but as somebody who makes something of value in the board game industry, whether it's making games, I want devs there definitely, whether it's publishing games, producing games, news, whether it's miniature painting, reviews, I don't care. If you add value, I want you there, because we have an awesome community here. I want an awesome community there as well, so feel free to check it out. Again, link in the description below there. But the big news, that's not big news, that's just me making a page on Facebook. The big news is that we are very close to the end of the year. We are getting there sooner than you may think. And as such, I've already had to start putting things in motion for my big video of the year, my biggest one. It is every year. The upcoming 2020 Kickstarter video is coming up. If you are not subscribed, you're going to want to subscribe to see that. Trust me, you and many thousands of other people are going to be interested in seeing a lot of the stuff I'm going to be showing. Hopefully I can share some information you haven't known. Hopefully I can show you some things you haven't seen, and get you pumped up for next year. Trust me, it's going to hit us like a train real quick. Come January, we're not going to know what happened. Like it's going to be rough sailing out there. So prepare your wallets and prepare your subscriptions. I don't know, that was dumb. Anyway, just letting you know that's coming up. All my end of year review stuff is coming up. My top 10 Kickstarters of this year. My top Kickstarters that I'm looking forward to next year. The Miniature Board Game Award. All that kind of stuff that I did last year, I'm going to be doing this year as well. But bigger and better than ever, of course, because I always try to improve for you guys. Alright, that's it. I hope you had a wonderful day. If you didn't, start having it now because it's a good day to be around and be a board gamer. Alright guys, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.